Finding a Way, the professor's office, the following Tuesday. The professor was huddled over a small book when Tamika and I walked into his office the next Tuesday. He seemed shocked when he noticed us. "Excuse me, Professor," I said. "You said we could come back to see you today." "You startled me," he said. "Since my mishap at the Toledo War, I've been a bit jumpy." "Sorry," I said. "We should have knocked before coming in." "Well, that's okay," he said. The professor shrugged his shoulders twice and asked how we were doing. "Fine," I replied. Tamika didn't say anything. Sometimes I wonder why she's so timid. What does the word timid mean? Yeah, it means like kind of shy or scared. I lost my spot. There we go. Are we going to learn about the Underground Railroad today? In a way, yes, the professor replied. We're going to visit one of the great voices of the anti-slavery movement. We're going to London to meet Frederick Douglass. Really? Asked Tamika. Who was he? I asked. Tamika stood proudly. He was an African American who escaped slavery by running away. When he was free, he gave lectures and speeches about how horrible slavery was. He even wrote books about his life as a slave and his escape to freedom. He did that and more, said the professor. Today we are going to actually meet him, I hope. But how are we going to meet him by going to London? I asked. Didn't he live in the United States? The professor just smiled. You can ask Mr. Douglass that question when you see him. Professor Tuesday went to work hooking up his time machine. Though he calls it his Tuesday teleporter, it looks more like a pile of junk than any machine I've ever seen. He plugged a tangle of wires into his computer and connected red, blue, and green cables to the teleporter globe on his desk. The professor set about to input time and place information into his computer. Finally, he checked to make sure everything was correct and pressed the enter key. The Tuesday teleporter jumped to life instantly. Lights and sounds circled the room, growing brighter and louder. My head spun. Over all the noise, I could hear Tamika crying. When I looked over, her hands were covering her eyes. A green cloud formed in the office. The professor poked his head inside it for a moment to make sure everything was okay. When he turned back into his office, he walked behind his desk. His head was wet and his glasses were covered with water drops. He took a towel from his desk. I brought my umbrella to work today just in case it was raining in London, said the professor as he dried his head and cleaned his glasses. It rains a lot there, you know. That's why I asked Miss Pepper to make sure you came prepared. The professor returned to the teleporter cloud, then looked at us. Put on your raincoats and follow me. No, answered Tamika. I'm afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of, my dear, the professor said kindly. I've already taken a look at where we'll be going. It's perfectly safe. Tears flowed down Tamika's face. I've read about slavery and how awful it was. My great-great-great-great-grandparents were runaway slaves who'd escaped by going to Canada. Their masters treated them very poorly. I don't think I can even face someone who was a slave. I'm scared. Tamika, I said as I put my hand on her shoulder, we don't have to do this. We can just tell Miss Pepper that it's just too dangerous. The professor looked at us kindly. I understand your concerns, but I wouldn't do anything to put you in danger. Every slave who even tried to escape had to be very brave and very smart. We can learn a lot about their courage and wisdom by visiting with Mr. Douglass. The green teleporter cloud glowed and crackled in the background. The professor paused a moment before continuing. If you decide to go back in time and you get scared, we'll return right away, okay? It's up to you. We can go or stay. Then the professor held out his hand to us. Tamika slowly nodded her head, then hesitated a moment before saying, let's go. We quietly joined hands and walked through the green cloud and into the past.